If you make under $125,000, you get $10,000 knocked off your student debt. Is it fair to people who, in fact,
to do?
But when you forgive debt, you're not just disappearing debt. So who is paying for this?
Today, we really proved that socialism wins.
The Biden administration actually did it. They did the least progressive thing that progressives have ever done in the history of the country. We'll talk about more of the student loan fallout. There's a New York State senator that said, yes, socialism wins. Also, Gavin Newsom and California Democrats have banned gas cars as of 2035. And there's actually some interesting updates on the Breonna Taylor case from 2 years ago, the shooting that killed one Breonna Taylor. All that and more coming up on this episode of Daily Caller Live. My name is Jobob. Daily Caller Live starts. Hold on, wait a second. We didn't cue this up. Okay, it starts right now.
2, 1.
Here we go.
That might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob.
That is actually their name, Jobob.
Live from the dingy bunker, completely cut off from the outside world, except for you fine folks. My name is Jobob. This is Daily Caller Live. Thanks so much for tuning in on today. It is August 25th, the year of our Lord 2022. A lot happened yesterday. We spent pretty much the entire show talking about student loans yesterday. We're going to spend a decent chunk about it, talking about it again today, considering that the Biden administration is officially out with the announcement saying that they're going to cancel student debt. So, and by cancel student debt, I mean transfer that debt to other taxpayers. There's no such thing as canceling debt. Let me play this clip from Joe Biden yesterday as we talk about this. And this is him just kind of talking about it, what it is. Very, very short clip. And then we'll get to some of the more interesting stuff that he said and also KJP said in a little sparring match with one Peter Doocy of Fox News. Check this out.
If you make under $125,000, you get $10,000 knocked off your student debt. If you make under $125,000 a year and you received a Pell Grant, you'll get an additional $10,000 knocked off that total for a total of $20,000 relief.
All right, so that's basically it. We summed it up yesterday. Nothing has really changed from there. This is a political stunt, by the way, as you can see the little chyron here. Yeah, it is a stunt. Probably because I don't think this is actually going to get through any of the courts, which is just going to be a whole other storm that we have to deal with. But the Biden administration is, quote unquote, canceling or redistributing debt from people who decided to take out student loans and then realized they don't want to pay them back, even though there's a promissory note and an intention to pay them back. They complained enough that it got to the president of the United States, and therefore they're going to attempt to move that debt to other people. Watch this clip. This is from the end of this little press conference thingy, and by press conference, I mean his statements given. Peter Doocy asked a question. Oh, shoot, it wasn't Peter Doocy. This was not Peter Doocy. Somebody else asked a question, basically saying, hey, do you think this is fair? I don't know. In the comment section, let me know what you think of whether or not that this is fair, that people are going to get $10,000 for student loans, generally speaking. I don't think there's any justification to forgive any sort of student loans, considering the people that have college degrees. One, unemployment is at like an all-time low. And two, of that, the people with college degrees and have student loan debt are even less unemployed than that. So I'm not sure what the justification here is, other than whiny kids complained too much, and that's what they're doing. But anyways, the fairness question comes into play. Let me play you what Joe Biden said while walking away from the podium. Also, if you haven't already, I see a couple thousand of you watching on this thing. Go ahead and click the little like button, the reaction button. Maybe this makes you insanely angry. Maybe you've been frustrated for a while. Go ahead and click the little reaction button down there. It really, really helps us out. Let us know in the comment section whether or not you think this is fair. Also, the little share button, if you feel so inclined, really, really does help us out continue doing what we're doing each and every day here on Daily Caller Live. All right, watch this from Joe Biden as he walks away from the podium.
Mr. President, is this unfair to people who paid their student loans or chose not to take out loans?
Is it fair to people who, in fact, do not own multi-billion-dollar businesses if you want these guys to give them all a tax breaks? Is that fair? What do you think?
What about people who paid their loans, though, struggle to pay their loans, and now others don't have to?
So that was kind of a weird, rambly thing. Somebody said, hey, do you think it's fair to people that paid their loans already? People that just finished paying their loans like last week, which, by the way, that was stupid of you, apparently. Apparently, it was stupid of you to pay loans. My wife and I were talking about it this morning. She got her master's degree, and together we paid it off pretty much immediately. Her working through her master's program, me obviously working. Apparently that was dumb of us. Apparently we should have bought a nicer car or taken a nicer vacation instead of paying that loan down, because I think her grad school was only like $10,000 or $12,000. How dumb of us to pay it off. What bad Americans we were. But Joe Biden they're saying, well, is it fair that some people own million-dollar corporations? Okay, but the majority of Americans don't own million-dollar corporations, so not entirely sure that argument's all that great. And the people that paid off their student loan debt, which, mind you, only like 13% of Americans actually have student loan debt, so it's a pretty small constituency that a lot of us are going to have to be paying for. So $10,000 for the 13% of Americans that have student loan debts equates to about $2,100 per taxpayer. So there were, geez, I'm going all over the place here this morning. On the Twitter machine, which is just a horrible place, a bunch of people were saying things like, I paid off my student loan debt, and because I'm not a bad person, I have no problem with forgiving others of theirs. Okay, well, yeah, but it's not forgiving. It's somebody's paying for it, and the people that are paying for it are you. So I responded to all of those people saying, okay, well, go ahead and Venmo me $2,100 if you don't mind paying for other people's frivolous spending habits. I'd happily take your $2,100. You know what? We'll even accept it into my nonprofit, so it's a tax write-off for you. How about that, Mr. and Mrs. I am better than you because I don't mind loans being forgiven. Oh, they're not forgiven. They're just transferred to somebody else. That's not how that works. But Joe Biden also then saying that the corporations that got millions in tax breaks are a different thing than transferring debt. Tax breaks and tax incentives given to companies to broaden their scope and hire more people and give more people jobs. It's not entirely at all relatable to quote unquote canceling / redistributing debt. Not the same thing. This exchange with Peter Doocy with KJP in the White House press briefing room was, I think, the best clip to come out of today. Watch this. The fireworks go off here. Again, if you haven't already, click the little like button and the little share button if you wouldn't mind, or let us know in the comment section what you think is fair. Somebody says, I'll wash your car for $2,500. You know what, Mark? Mark put in a comment. I want to bring this. I'm going to keep this here while this is playing, I think. Watch this. Watch this clip from KJP, and then we'll discuss what's actually happening and why it's, in fact, a political stunt. Check this out.
For that, and that again, here's what we have done. Here's
a lot about how much it might cost, it might not cost. Who is paying for this?
What we are saying is the work that this administration has done, the work that the Democrats in Congress has done, is actually there, and you see that the 1.7 trillion deficit deduction that you see is going to benefit us in being able to do something for the middle class, to do something for the middle class.
But when you
this is about doing something for people who make less than $125,000, $1.7 trillion. That's what we've been able to do.
But when you forgive debt, you're not just disappearing debt. So who is paying for this?
And then I'll give you the second part. We lifted the pause, right? We're going to lift the pause at the end of this year, which is going to matter, right? Which is going to offset a lot of what we're doing as well. When you think about the $4 billion that's going to go back into as revenue back into this process of folks paying right their college tuition, that matters as well. So we are doing this in a smart way. We're doing this in a way that's going to be effective. We're doing in this a way that keeps to the president's promise on giving people who need some breathing room, who needs some breathing room. I just laid out for you. No, Peter, I just laid out for you how we're seeing this process and why this matters. Again, I just laid out. I just laid out because.
Yeah, that's enough of that. KJP, I wanted to bring up some comments here. Phyllis said, "But who's paying? Answer the question." She didn't. Well, no. This is going to be broadly beneficial for the synergistic approach of the United States of America. And I just stand up here at the White House press briefing room and blabber on about words that people like to hear in the news, such as approach, America, patriots, paying for things, and broadening the scope of all of our horizons. She didn't actually say anything. Dan said, "Pay off my car loan because I was pressured to have a car to go to work." You know what, Dan? I sympathize with that. I also was pressured predatorily into a car loan because I wanted a car. I think those loans should be paid too. Philip agrees and says, "Let's pay car loans next." But I feel like Mr. Mark here had probably the comment that I would like to bring up here, especially when we're talking about Joe Biden's political stunt. It's just buying votes. I said on the Twitter machine earlier that there's so many of these fun comments, that the Democratic Party is hemorrhaging Black and Hispanic voters. And this is just a way to solidify the voting bloc that they think they have, which is educated, rich, white women who went to school and carry student loan debt, who are just struggling so much to pay their student loan debt. Oh my gosh, how can I do this? I'm not going to give up my $7 Starbucks every single day or my mani-pedis, but I need my student loan debt forgiven because I just can't afford it anymore. So they're just trying to solidify that voter base. Wow, there's some comments already on my rich, white, college-educated woman accent or impression. Jeez. Okay, I see where you guys are. So yeah, that's it. There was a great article that I didn't bring on because I'm bad at my job. Oh, here we go. Here it is. Here's these comments are going so fast. I got to get this one up. Denise says socialism. With a distraught face. Yeah, that's exactly what this is, which brings us into this clip that I wanted to bring up. This is a state Senate race in New York, in Queens. Some gal named Kristen Gonzalez ended up winning her primary, and this video has surfaced. Let me know in the comment section. I don't know, what do you think of socialism? I have an I Love America shirt on, which inherently then means I think that socialism will kill us all. Socialism and communism has a higher death toll than any virus, any plague, any meteor striking the earth, than anything, really. It's the biggest killer of mankind is socialist policies. Yet there are people that are going to win state Senate seats in New York saying things like this. If you haven't already, click the little like button and a little share button. Because people need to see this. This is actually a problem. We're going to all have to deal with this. Watch this.
I know we're saving the speeches for a little later, but today we really proved that socialism wins. We are not going anywhere, and we will not stop until we see a socialist flag across this city.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting clip for her to have out there when she tries to run for higher office. I would imagine she's going to win this seat, which is crazy, by the way. the problem is the same thing with AOC in her congressional district, I think around the same area. The issue that you have is in primaries, people who are very fervent about elections end up showing up to vote, while the majority of people just don't vote in primaries. This is a strongly held Democrat seat. I believe she's registered as a Democrat, even though if I were a Democrat and I was controlling the DNC, I would boot all the socialists out and say, hey, you can't register as this party. That's a different problem for them to solve. But this is going to be interesting to see how this continues to play out across the country. Again, socialists, avowed socialists, getting elected to office is a little crazy. A lot of people saying Biden is buying votes. The student loan debt is buying votes, buying votes, buying votes. Yeah, no, you're right. It's you're right. This is bananas. And it is socialism in a lot of ways, shapes, and forms. And speaking of socialists, I wanted to get to this. Governor King Gavin Newsom out in California, they've banned gas cars. Because, if one thing California needed to fix, it was those god-awful gas cars that are driving around the state and transporting people to the jobs to pay the taxes that run the government. This is kind of interesting, though, and again, just from a political standpoint, if there's anything that I would like this show to do, spending however many years I spent as a political consultant and still doing advisory work in some way, shape, or form in the political realm, I always want to point out what is a political stunt and versus what is actual governance. Unfortunately, most of the things that government does, state government, federal government, local government, local government is probably not this. 80% of what they do is all political stunts in order to achieve or attain a higher office. This political stunt in California is no different. California is set to move closer to banning the sale of new cars running only on gasoline by 2035, a major step in the car-loving state's fight against climate change. So California is banning gas cars, the sale of new gas cars by 2035. Now, the timeline here is pretty interesting given California's term limits and, basically just that, term limits. The year is 2022. Actually, hold on. Let me finish telling you what's actually happening. The expected embrace of the policy by the state's Air Resources Board during the meeting scheduled for Thursday comes after Governor Gavin Newsom set a target in 2020 for cleaning up California's auto fleet. The proposed regulations would set strict deadlines that can absolutely be moved by the next people in office for meeting that goal, forcing automakers to step up production for cleaner vehicles considerably starting in 2026. The requirements would only speed forward from there until the zero emission, other than the making the electricity emissions and the disposal of the electric batteries once they're done and the solar panels used to power those. Once all of those are, those don't count as emissions. Those are, something else. Just kidding. They actually are also emissions. Pickups and SUVs will also be limited to a limited number of plug-in hybrids, allowing to be sold in the state until 2035. There's nothing else more important there. Basically, they're setting a deadline in California that no new automobiles with gas power can be sold until 2035. Here's the interesting thing. In 2035, first of all, California, in both houses of their legislature, the state assembly and the state senate, as well as the governor and all of those other statewide offices, the only problem is that all of them will be gone. California has term limits for the state assembly and the state senate, 12 years, depending on how you split your time between either. You can spend, 6 years in the assembly and 6 years in the Senate, whatever you want to split, 12 years. What's 12 times 22? 2034. Meaning that if somebody was elected today, they would be out of office by the time this thing is set to go into effect, meaning that nobody's going to be around to enforce it, meaning that this is strictly a political move by King Gavin, who is running for president, to say, look, we're going to ban cars by 2035 in the state of California. It's not going to happen. Nobody expects it to happen. And even if they did, nobody in the current government would be around to see that it does happen because they'll all be out of office. Not because they got voted out, but because they literally cannot hold office anymore by law. Again, the main thing getting here is I would like to point out just political moves and how they're made and what they do. Governor Newsom and California are strictly making a political move to ban cars. Ooh, Nate has a pretty good idea. Ban bans. Wow. It's insightful. Geez, so there's that. Obviously, okay, so Larry also obviously points out the obvious one. Buy out of state. Yeah. Duh. That's what... If this wasn't a political move and this was a governance move, and if they were able to enforce it, and if the electrical grid was upgraded to an extent that could handle all of the electric vehicles, and if we just figured out how to dispose of the batteries, and if we figured out the way to, I don't know, generate more electricity just using green energy because that's what doesn't cause emissions, if all of those things happened, just buy a car out of state. I don't know. Las Vegas is like 3 hours from where I live. Just buy the car there. And also, who says, where does a transaction take place? I don't know, if I was a dealership in Las Vegas, Nevada, I could charge a hefty surcharge to drive the car out and just deliver it to you. And then we'll have a server based in Nevada that could handle the online transaction. These things are stupid in so many ways, shapes, or forms. Wow. No love here in the comment section for King Gavin Newsom. Interesting. All right, I want to get to this. This is, I think, a much bigger story that I wanted to make sure we touched on. Everybody probably is familiar with the Breonna Taylor incident in which police did a no-knock warrant into her home. She was sleeping in a bed. Her boyfriend at the time, I believe, had a registered firearm, fired back at the cops because he didn't know that they were cops. Suppose that's what his testimony was. The cops fired back, ended up unfortunately killing Breonna Taylor in an innocent crossfire. So that we know that story. I think the super extreme lefties politicized this probably too much, in that they were looking for murder charges, which, without getting into the details of what constitutes as murder or versus manslaughter versus any of the other things that they would have been charged with, without getting into that, this thing got politicized a ton. Now, the problem with stuff like this getting politicized, hyper-politicized, especially by the left, and especially when they play the race card and the anti-cop card, is that missteps often go unlooked. Now, I am a pro-law enforcement person. I think we should have laws. I think we should enforce those laws. And I respect the people that put their lives on the line every single day to enforce those laws. Having said that, I respect law enforcement, but don't think that they're infallible. This would be a perfect case of that. And by perfect, I mean exactly the case of why we should respect law enforcement, but not call them infallible and hold them to any lesser account than we would if we, I don't know. They're government workers, essentially, and this was a huge failing here. This is from the Department of Justice. So you heard about the no-knock warrant. You heard about her getting caught in the crossfire. what I think didn't make the news because this got so hyper politicized was the way that the warrant affidavit was obtained. That's what there are 4 detectives in the shoot, I forget the police department's name and I can't find it here in the article. That's what the police department, the 4 detectives in the police department's office are actually indicted for in civil court in the federal judicial system. An officer named Goodlett pled guilty to, shoot, did I seriously cut off the part where what this specific charge? Basically misleading the judge that issued the warrant. Goodlett admitted that key information in the warrant affidavit was false and misleading. For example, the other PD detectives claimed that in the warrant affidavit, that U.S. postal inspectors had verified a target of a narcotics investigation, someone named JG, who was the former boyfriend of Breonna Taylor. And they had received packages at Taylor's home. Goodlett knew this claim was false because the other detective told her that he had learned there was nothing there and that the Postal Service had not flagged Taylor's address for receiving any suspicious packages. The warrant affidavit also claimed that JG used Taylor's home as his current home address. Goodlett admitted that this claim was misleading because officers knew that JG, the suspect in this narcotics investigation, did not live at Taylor's home. In fact, Goodlett acknowledged that she and other detectives knew of no evidence that JG had even visited Taylor's home in the last several weeks before the warrant was obtained. So the bottom line here is that the police department in the Breonna Taylor whole situation lied about the process by which they sought the warrant. And a problem with that is that, I copy and pasted too much of this article, I think, and I'm having trouble finding what part of this is. Oh, here we go. On May 16, 2020, about 2 months after Taylor's death, media outlets reported that the postal inspector had previously specifically denied the detective's claim and made it into the warrant affidavit. So the postal inspection services said, no, we didn't tell them that there were suspicious packages going to this, which they used to get the warrant. The next day, the other detectives texted Goodlett, the one who just pleaded guilty, that a criminal investigator wanted to meet with him. Goodlett further admitted that she and the other detective arranged to meet in the detective's garage that night. During the garage meeting, the other detective told Goodlett that they needed to get on the same page because if he went down for a false warrant, she would go down too. Goodlett admitted that she and the other detective agreed to repeat the false cover story to others. Bottom line here is that the cops got something wrong and then tried to cover it up. Got something wrong and specifically lied about it, probably, which she pled guilty to, and tried to cover it up. Philip says, wasn't it in Louisville? Yeah, I think it's the Louisville M police. I'm not sure what the M stands for, but the police department got it wrong and then tried to cover it up. So the only reason why I'm bringing this up here is because if you are a lover of liberty and lover of freedom, yes, you can support law enforcement. Yes, you can back the blue, if you want to say that. But at the same time, when they get something wrong and then try to cover it up, it does us no good to pretend that it didn't happen. At least that's the thing that I choose to believe. There's no way that you can love liberty and at the same time turn a blind eye to when that liberty is infringed on your fellow Americans. That's the bottom line in this whole case. We can go on further, I guess, and talk more about, I don't know, different components of this. But the bottom line here is that This is going underreported. Officers, again, in the Breonna Taylor case, are pleading guilty to conspiracy that they completely mishandled getting the warrant and flat out lied about it and then tried to cover it up. And as a society, we cannot tolerate that, regardless of how you feel about law enforcement. They are government officials, and while they should be respected, and I do respect them, they are not infallible in any way, shape, or form. And when they do make huge mistakes like this, we should point it out and not shy away from it. Again, I wish this didn't get so politicized by the left, but yeah, that's really all I have to say about that. Keep people honest. That's going to do it for us today. Geez, that was kind of a dreary note to end this thing on. But the Biden administration, if they do anything else with these student loan things, we will bring it to you loud and proud. A lot of people making some, interesting comments here. Comments going both ways, saying society, we cannot tolerate any police lies, and then also saying some other stuff that I'm not going to bring on air here. Anyways, that is what it is. Any new information from the Biden administration comes out over the next couple of days, we will bring it to you. Any more socialists winning any primaries, we'll also bring that to you tomorrow. And on a Friday, there's some funny videos that we've been sitting on. If you've seen the hot dog beer video at the Yankee game, I'll play that tomorrow because we've run out of. There's been too many things happening, so I can't get that on the show. We'll bring that on tomorrow, as it is Friday. If you haven't already, would appreciate you clicking the little like button, the little share button. Would really appreciate you doing so. Also, give me a follow on any of your social media platforms. If you follow me on Instagram, something weird happened yesterday where I've got like this little subscribe button on my Instagram page now. Don't subscribe. There's nothing to subscribe. I'm not putting out any exclusive content. There's no nothing of that. I just can't get this stupid button off of my stupid account. So anyways, give me a follow on any of your social media accounts, and we can continue the conversation there if I feel like it. It's going to do it for us today. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. God bless America.